Trump's outpourings at the UN has been kind of superseded later on yesterday. It's made some of the late editions of the papers this morning. He's done a complete U-turn on Ukraine-Russia. After spending all of this time pressurising Zelensky to surrender to Putin and call it a day, he's now saying openly that he thinks that actually Ukraine should fight back and has the full capability of winning back all the territory that Russia's invaded. And he's suggesting that they get on with it.
Ever the mercurial president. I mean, that is him, isn't it? I mean, if you remember when he met Zelensky in the Oval Office the first time, he humiliated him. He bullied him with J.D. Vance, the vice president, and it was an unedifying to watch. And
now he's on his side.
He's on his side completely.
Well, today...
And so he should be.
Today, maybe not tomorrow, but the truth is Ukraine is very slowly losing the war territory because it's up against a much larger adversary which can afford to pour more people into a meat grinder and they lose their lives.
Putin doesn't care how many die.
If you really wanted to back Ukraine, you'd say, right, I'm going to provide the weapons, the armaments for you to do this. I'm now going to immediately impose the most stringent and punishing economic sanctions on Russia. It's not doing any of that. Not doing it. It's just... You know, he just gets out of bed, says what he thinks, gets out of bed the following day. It may not be what he was thinking the previous day and says something else.
Well, he certainly seems to have turned his back on Putin. I mean, he was writing on Truth Social, that's where the stories come from, last night. He dismissed Russia as a paper tiger. He said that Russia had been fighting aimlessly now for 3.5 years. He said any decent country would have won that battle in a week, and they've got really virtually nowhere in 3.5 years. He does actually say that America will continue to supply weapons to NATO, for NATO to then pass on to Ukraine, and he wishes them well.
Yeah, but he talks about NATO, for NATO to do what it wants. He's part of NATO. He's got to remember he's probably he's the biggest player in NATO, but he always pretends NATO is something else. And is he going to provide those weapons as Biden did, or is he going to sell them and want cash?
So you don't think this really changes anything?
I'm very sceptical because he's all over the place. He's like a wonky supermarket trolley, and you go down the aisle and it goes off to the left, it goes off to the right, then it doesn't go anywhere at all.
I think Trump likes a winner, and he doesn't see that Putin's winning this war in the way you'd think he should be able to because of his vastly superior numbers and money. And I think so. He's backing the underdog.
Also was remarkable in his speech because considering that we were celebrating Trump last week with the state banquet and the royal visit and the carriage ride through Windsor Great Park, and he was meeting the King, his great friend, and Prince William and Princess Kate, he sort of turned his back on us. I mean, he says Europe's in serious trouble, illegal aliens pouring in. He said that, you know, London is... I mean, he didn't use the word fallen, but he said that, you know, London is terrible. You have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor. Sadiq Khan, by the way, who the Prime Minister had to point out is a personal friend of his. It's all been so changed. Trump didn't go anywhere near London. So I don't know how he knows that it's all suddenly changed and it's become this dreadful place. Immigration in Europe is, you know, an absolute catastrophe. Nothing's being done about it. Meanwhile, of course, we have this extraordinary footage today where the government is quite clearly showing something is being done about immigration with the deportation flights. First time that they have been filmed. And Paul Brand was on one in the last few days.
Well, you can criticise Sadiq Khan politically if you like. I take a different view. I think he's a much better mayor than say he thinks from a different perspective. But he's 100 times better man than Donald Trump will ever be. The Sharia smear around London is a far-right trope. It's just
President Trump said Sadiq Khan plans to bring in Sharia
just not
law.
true. And I live in London. I live in East London. Tower Hamlets, one of those areas. Oh, there's Sharia law. Many politicians have, or a handful of politicians actually, mainstream politicians in Britain have said it before and had to retract it because it's just not true. It's a smear. It's all bigotry from Trump. It's based on Islamophobia. But I find the Paul Brand's document fascinating, absolutely fascinating. They get an insight into what it's really like to get people out of the country.
Well, as we were saying, they don't go quietly. They literally kick and scream.
My thoughts are with the people who have to escort them on the planes and deal with them. Paul was talking about how he and the crew felt threatened, but those workers must be really
convicted.
Lots of urine thrown over them.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful.
But it's 47
happening.
convicted criminals being taken back to Romania, 41 of them men, 6 of them women. Amongst that group are people guilty of murder.
Wow. I think people are going to be shocked. Look what that woman is doing. She's giving a credit card loaded with £2,000 of taxpayers' money. So these are murderers and sex offenders. We're bribing them with £2,000 to get out of the country. A prisoner who leaves a jail in this country, I think they get, Paul Brown was telling us, £90. And that's why we get massive reoffending in this country, because they leave with 90 quid. It's not enough to pay for a room. It's not. It doesn't pay. It won't pay for their drug habit. They get back into crime. That's why we have a massive reoffending. So why are we giving these people £2,000?
The moment I heard Paul say that, it stuck in my throat. But then he pointed out it was people who are going willingly or compliant.
It's like a sweetener.
Yes, and the reason, and he said it's been going on for 20 years, so right through the Conservative government, the Liberal Democrat Conservative alliance, it's been going on. And I suspect, right, the sweetener, and it doesn't look good, and it leaves a nasty taste.
Horrible.
Is because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than having to fight people in the courts and have all the security guards dragging them on.
Coming back to Trump, you said yesterday, it was a good expression, you said that even a stopped clock is right twice a day. And not everything that Trump says is nonsense, and sometimes he puts his finger on things and he gets a round of applause, as it were, in this country. But a lot of the time, he is talking nonsense, absolute nonsense, and it seems to be getting worse. And I was struck by the reaction of the other UN delegates yesterday when he was making his speech. They were just sort of basically shifting uncomfortably in their seats and trying not to pull faces. And you can guarantee that when we interview British government ministers about what Trump said on this programme today or tomorrow or next week, they will obfuscate and they will sort of make excuses. Nobody seems willing to confront him and say, Mr. President, what you just said was nonsense. You haven't, for example, stopped 7 wars.
Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, does, to his credit. Zach Polanski, the Green Party leader, will. There'll be other politicians on the left who will. But you're quite right. Government ministers, Labour ministers, are essentially told don't cross him.
Whatever he says.
And too many Conservatives are cheering him and saying with reform. They're agreeing.
I just sort of knew when he did that statement that I think he's going to take all the trappings, he's going to love every second of it, and when he gets back to America, he'll do his own thing and he'll be as rude as he likes about Britain and Starmer, and that's exactly what he's done.
But it's why I argued he shouldn't have got that state visit.
Well, it was Starmer's decision.
But you were backing it.
No, I said it was too soon. I was adamant it was too soon. Far too soon. They should have used it as an inducement to get a better deal on tariffs.
Can we see how Macron behaved? Macron found himself stuck in New York traffic because of the motorcade that was taking the president back from the UN. And you know what? What we see on camera here reminds me of the way that me and my grubby-necked schoolfellows back at grammar school used to treat the school bully. We used to try and sort of joke and laugh and tease and make it all seem that it was all a bit of a giggle. And that's kind of what Macron's doing here. Oh, shucks. I'm stuck in traffic.
Mr. President. Right, if you're President of France, you're also the head of state. I mean, that must have been rather embarrassing, humiliating for him. So what do? You just try, and laugh your way through.
Why would you get on the phone to the other president? I just think...
But it is.
Sucking up to him.
Oh, awful.
Right, there's a security issue. There's a security issue that is exposed like that, but it's really just politically and personally humiliating, and I just find it rather funny.
More seriously, Trump's suggesting now, all of a sudden, that we should actually shoot down Russian planes that stray into NATO airspace. Never mind escorting them out, flying across their bows, sending them signals. We should actually knock them out of the sky.
That would be a major escalation, and that is...
Hello, World War III.
Absolutely.
And then immediately, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, his Foreign Secretary, says only if they're attacking.
Yeah.
No, which would be quite right. If you had warplanes going into Poland or any of the Baltic states and they started bombing people, then you would want them shot down. But if they strayed in, they're testing you. Do you really want to escalate? It's where Trump is an unhinged, loose cannon.
Well, he's getting worse, isn't he?
I think he he is.
Watching the speech to the UN yesterday, that there were more, you wouldn't even call them faux pas, there were more extraordinarily nonsensical statements.
He goes
in
off
one
script,
space.
doesn't he? Because he had a 15-minute speech to deliver, and he spoke for an hour.
Well,
he rambled.
He went.
That's what he did.
Hard right, far right influencer, agitator Charlie Kirk's funeral, and he gave a campaign speech.
Yeah.
Everybody else realised it was a funeral commemoration and was respectful within their terms, and he went and rambled on. I wonder.
I mean, the family are close friends.
Yeah.
Yes, but
he was close friends with Charlie Kirk. He's, you know, if you invite a close friend who was the President of the United States, you might welcome however long he wants to speak to you.
Yeah, perhaps you're quite right, but it was out of sync with everybody else and how they behaved. I just wonder if he's...
Not out of sync with how he behaves. If you invite President Trump,
he's got
you get President Trump.
He's got this monarchical...
Same for the United Nations.
He's got this monarchical mania now. He knows you can't really be unseated unless death visits or you're judged to be unfit mentally for office.
He's having a ball.
Well, and everybody
allowed to have a
hangs
ball.
on his every word.
Absolutely.
Even if you disagree vehemently with every single
He's dominating political agendas around the world. That speech last night, we'll be leading breakfast shows all around the world.
But is there going to come a point where we stop doing that? And quite rightly, that every time...
When he leaves office.
Yeah.
If he leaves office and he doesn't change...
You're going to change the Constitution.
What was it, the 25th Amendment or whatever it is?
I think the 25th is if you're judgmentally unfit or...
Oh, that's the one you'd like him to be judged under. But there is an amendment which says you can't, of course, stand for a third term.
Yeah, because it came after Roosevelt. And, of course...
President. He has referred to that amendment in the past.
And if in America...
He's dropping
you can amend the Constitution to say you can't do more than 2 terms, so you can re-amend it to say you can.
Can I ask about the asylum seeker who was yesterday sentenced to 12 months in prison after sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman in Epping? Of course, this was the individual, Hadush Kabatu, been staying at the Bell Hotel and sparked, of course, huge weeks of protests. Found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity and harassment without violence earlier this month. Given 12 months, won't serve 12 months.
6 months if we're lucky.
However, the Home Office say they will seek to deport him following his prison sentence. So could we see him on one of these deportation flights? The Home Office has said they want to deport him back to native Ethiopia. His legal representative said he wanted to be deported. However, the Home Office may struggle to remove him because apparently we have no formal returns agreement with Ethiopia. Then people are going to be asking, OK, well, is he going to appeal against deportation? And will he be given the £2,000? It just raises all of these sensitive questions, doesn't it?
If he opposes going, you won't get the money, because it seems the money is if you comply and you accept at the end of your sentence, you're going to be deported. But I do see him on a flight there. If we haven't got an agreement, let's get an agreement. And I don't think you need a formal agreement to deport people to every country.
But why can't you just don't deport him immediately?
The judge in the case said that, as far as he was concerned, he thought this man represented a continuing threat to girls and women in this country, even after he's been released. Not least because when this gentleman, Mr. Kabatu, was talking to his probation officer after he'd been convicted, but before he was sentenced, he said that he was a bit surprised that all this had happened to him because he didn't know that the UK was as strict as we are, even though in Ethiopia the age of consent is 18, so he can't claim culture clash. He was genuinely mystified that he got himself into trouble. He thought that it was sort of all right.
No, he's a liar. I just think there's, 10,500 foreign criminals in our prison. I think we need to get them out and deport a lot of them.
I think at the end of sentences, yes. But if you just said, put him on a flight now, then he wouldn't serve a sentence.
But we're going to pay £50,000 to keep him in prison.
But then he wouldn't be punished. I mean, that's it.
What would you rather?
Get him out.
You'd rather he didn't serve
I'd rather we got him out.
sentence. Do you think that feels like justice if he doesn't serve time in prison?
I think this country's completely broke and we're going to pay nearly, what was it, nearly 50,000 a year to keep a prisoner in jail?
Yeah, on average.
Just kick him out.
OK.
Without a £2,000 credit card.
Can we ask you about the front page of your paper this morning, Andrew? I'm a tiny bit puzzled by this story. I'm just wondering, is there a ticking time bomb underneath Labour and then underneath Keir Starmer? The headline is, email damns Starmer's top aide in £740,000 donations round, effectively saying that there's been a breach of electoral law, that money that was donated to fight the election wasn't declared. What's going on here?
This is about a man called Morgan McSweeney. The reason this is significant, he is the most powerful unelected person in Britain. He is Keir Starmer's chief of staff, incredibly influential. He helped him secure the Labour leadership and he ran the general election campaign. And there was an organisation called Labour Together, which amassed £700,000 in donations, which should have been declared. They were told the donations should have been declared, and they weren't on his watch. Now, so Labour Together was fined £14,000. Why this has now come up now is because emails have come to light, which seems to suggest he knew that he was in breach of electoral
and
law
he wanted
at the time.
to dismiss it as an administration error.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ticking time bombs under Labour. There's a lot of ticking time bombs under Morgan McSweeney. But I don't think this is it, because they were fined 4 years ago and it was dealt with then. And I would have thought the commission, the Electoral Commission, ain't going to reopen this.
But this is the Prime Minister's right-hand man who clearly broke electoral law. And the
Yeah,
suggestion
they
was
got fined.
They were suggesting the reason the donations were covered up was because they didn't want Jeremy Corbyn was leading the Labour Party at the time to know that all this money was being built up for effectively a fighting fund for Starmer.
That's always been the suspicion what it was really about. So the Corbynistas couldn't.
And a lot of Labour MPs don't like this guy, Morgan McSweeney. There's a lot of pressure on him because they don't think, well, look at Labour's polling ratings.
Yeah, well, he pushed for Peter Mandelson to be appointed our man in Washington, and that went disastrously wrong. Yeah. He pushed for the Transport Secretary, Lou Haig, to be sacked over a minor former offence, and I think that was a huge error. So, no, there's lots of political reasons why I think he's on shaky ground, but I seriously don't think it's...
And the Tory chairman, Kevin Hollingrake, says Morgan McSweeney has been caught red-handed, hiding hundreds of thousands of pounds, which helped install Keir Starmer as Labour leader. Nothing to see here, Keir. It's quite catchy, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Nothing to see
Two-tier
here,
Keir.
He's got a name. He's got a name.
Never hear Keir, always on the fire stage.
I like it. He's got a
may think he can ride this one out. Or perhaps he's too weak to fire a chief of staff who tells him what to think. But the Conservatives will not stop fighting until we get the truth. And they're asking police to urgently investigate.
And that's the part of the problem, because look, he's lost a deputy prime minister, he's lost an American ambassador, and what was Paul Overton's job? The director of strategy.
Political strategy.
There's been some significant departures.
There's been a terrible trend in recent years by all parties to keep shouting for the police to be called in and investigated.
Yeah, mainly by Labour.
Just would like to point out the Electoral Commission said it had thoroughly investigated the late reporting in 2021. Offences were determined and they were sanctioned accordingly.
Now, something...
I think they're saying,
nothing to see here.
We've dealt with it. Go away.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to see here because apparently there is nothing.
Look, it's politicians having a go at each other. It's like dogs and lampposts.
Yeah.
Maybe they all need a good night's sleep. Something which I find hard to believe, this report this morning, that 3 hours sleep a night is plenty for almost 50% of people.
What?
I don't believe
No,
people say they get by fine on 3 hours a night.
Every night?
Every night.
You might get by on 3 hours, one night.
It's a
or
genetic trait,
if you're at
apparently.
university,
and
you're out every night.
Yeah, new mothers might.
Yes,
3 hours.
that's
I'd
true.
love 3 hours. But no, look, sleep rejuvenates you. Your body, you need more than 3 hours. Many of us are sleep deprived.
How much do you need?
I need 6 or 7.
How much do you need, Andy?
I don't always get it. But
6.
6? You get by on 6?
I think I do, yeah.
I get by on 7 doing this, but then I need 8 or 9 when I'm not doing this.
I try and catch up at the weekend, have a bit of a lie-in.
But recharging your batteries, I just don't think it's very helpful.
But I don't think that's a good way to carry on, because binge sleeping isn't good for you. You better to have more sleep every night.
I feel for the 50% who are getting by on 3 hours, but they're going to be knackered.
Yeah.
It's going to age them.
Go to bed at 2 and get up at 5.
Yeah, amazing. And then you make bad decisions. I mean, prime ministers...
Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher.
Mrs. T, 4 hours.
But that was 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than 3 hours.
Yeah. But it's not enough.
Does it contribute to dementia at the other end?
There's also, very quickly,
that's
there's been a poll of 2,000 adults to see what's on everyone's bucket list. And there's a list of 1 to 25. Guess what's number 1 on most people's bucket list?
Disneyland.
It's on there, but no, it's not number 1. Seeing the Northern Lights.
Oh, really?
That is the number 1 desire for people who haven't actually done that. Number 2 is travelling on the Orient Express. Number 3 is going on a Mediterranean or Caribbean cruise. And bottom, at number 25, is having a helicopter ride.
What about seeing Sunderland win the Champions League?
That's number 973.
I'd settle for Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup. And they've done it! I can go happy.
I was out with a Palace fan last night. You just couldn't believe it.
Kevin Andrew, thank you very much indeed.